The Ravens over the Texans. Ravens had a 24-0 shutout in the second half, but it was far from a layup. It was not. I mean, we saw the game at halftime. It was anyone's game. It was a toss-up game at halftime. It was tied at 10, and despite being double-digit favorites, the Ravens had to scratch and claw for a good chunk of that game, and shoulda, coulda, woulda been down at halftime. And yet, the media believes they know exactly when everything changed. So if you saw any of the media coverage over the weekend about the Ravens game, there was a sentiment that this is why the game flipped in the second half. Why is that? Was it a great move by Harbaugh? No. Was it the weather? No. Did somebody get hurt for the Texans? Well, not C.J. Stroud. He was in the whole game. So it turns out the Ravens quarterback, Lamar Jackson, realizing here's another playoff game and this is not going so well for the team. Lamar Jackson at halftime used a motivational speech, and that inspired, according to what I was reading over the weekend, that inspired Baltimore to win the game. They came out like gangbusters in the third quarter. He said, Jackson, a lot of cursing happened at halftime. He said it would be inappropriate if he repeated what was said. And there were factions of the media that are totally convinced that the second half success by the Baltimore football team was directly related. There's a correlation between the profanity at halftime by Lamar Jackson and then the performance in the second half. So let us discuss thumbs up or thumbs down on Lamar Jackson. Was Lamar Jackson's halftime speech the difference that pushed Baltimore into the winner's circle? So I'm going to go thumbs down on this. I got one thumbs down right now, and we will toss together Wienermobile, Flyers, and Cobb salad. Wienermobile, Flyers, and Cobb salad. We'll connect all these things together, and we are going to make a nice vacation, which is what C.J. Stroud and the Texans will be going on, a nice vacation. So first of all, my initial thought on this story was, that's just like one person claiming that this was the difference in the game. And then I kept seeing it over and over again. I kept seeing the same storyline and the same premise to each story, that this was an amazing moment, and that Lamar Jackson is such a great leader. He put the team on his back, and he cursed them all out, and that was the difference. And I was like, really? So you're telling me that this inspirational decree, if Lamar had not gone up there and said the F word and the C word and the all these different words, if he hadn't said those things, the Ravens would have lost the game. But because he said those things while my friend Sports with Coleman was eating the chicken fingers at halftime, the Ravens were rallying around to win this game. And I just roll my eyes at this kind of stuff, right? This is what I talk about. There's no such thing as momentum, right? It doesn't exist. Bills should have won the game. They had all the momentum, right? They had all the momentum and all that in that game. The Ravens, momentum, that halftime adjustments. Also bullcrap. Halftime adjustments. Same concept. We roll our eyes at this kind of stuff. But this is the kind of bullpucky that gets regurgitated. Listen, I know there's a lot of dumb people out there that like this kind of stuff. Oh, I buy into that. Yeah, it makes sense. It's just like those movies, those Hollywood movies about football. Okay. So this story is a Wienermobile story. Okay, it's the stuff that's inside the hot dog. It's that stuff inside the Wienermobile, inside the hot dog. It's all that stuff. The byproducts, the variety of meats that they throw together in the tube for the hot dog. It's a filler. It's a filler story that'll get decent click rate and engagement. And Baltimore won because they played better. They didn't play better because of a halftime speech by Lamar Jackson. That's not true. And because Lamar gave a heartfelt speech, other than that, the Ravens would have not shown up in the second half. The turning point to me was actually in the first half. And the Texans were driving the ball down. They had a field goal attempt to take the lead. They would have been up 13-10, more likely than not, at halftime. But their idiot kicker missed a field goal. So instead of being up 13-10, you're tied at 10. And then the Texans were god-awful in the second half. But just 68 yards. That's all they had after halftime. 68 yards and 4 first downs. That's it. So now people, of course, pumping the tires on the Ravens defense, like they're going to lead the Ravens to the promised land, and you don't do that in the modern NFL. The Cleveland Browns statistically had a better defense than the Baltimore Ravens and got absolutely destroyed by that same Houston Texans team. And so I don't put much stock in that. Now, secondly, in the NFC side on Saturday, the team that will play the Lions for the right to go to Las Vegas, in the NFC side of the bracket on Saturday night, the Packers blew a fourth-quarter lead, which is almost impossible to do against the 49ers. The 49ers, in their last 43 games when trailing by 5 or more points in the fourth quarter, were 2-41. I am told that is a 0.44 winning percentage under Kyle Shanahan when trailing by just 5 points or more in the fourth quarter. And they rallied from down 7 and beat the Cheeseheads in the game on Saturday night. Green Bay had the opportunity. The game was there for the Green Bay Packers to win this particular game, to pull the upset. They had a chance to pull it out, even in the final seconds, and they couldn't get it done. They had a missed field goal late. They also had the mistake of Jordan Love. So what went wrong for Jordan Love at the end of the game for the Green Bay football team? What went wrong? So as the notorious Flyers coach would say, John Tortorella, turns out that Jordan Love sucked at a time you cannot suck, and the last few possessions, last 4 possessions, Jordan Love sucked from head to toe. He was fine. He was great for the first 6 possessions of the game, but something changed at the end of the game. First 6 possessions for the Packers with Jordan Love, he was completing almost 70% of his passes, averaging 7.5 yards per attempt, had a couple of touchdowns, no interceptions. And then the final 4 possessions for the Packers, he completed just 50% of his passes, averaged 2.5 yards per pass over the final 4 possessions, had the 2 interceptions to the same guy, by the way, and a 16.7 passer rating to end the game. Now, I didn't play in the NFL. I just do the overnight show. I think that sucks, but I digress. So the mistake there at the end in particular, you throwing the ball across your body. Here is Jordan Love commenting on doing the thing you can't do at the time you can't do it. Take a listen.
Play broke down, was scrambling right. Saw Christian over the middle and, tried forcing one into him. Thought I could make the play. Didn't see the backside, so they made a great play.
Now, Packer apologists are claiming that the turning point in the game was when someone named Zach Tom, we're told that's an offensive tackle for the Packers, when he left with an injury, that was the turning point in the game. So I guess Jordan Love is a fraud if he can't, one offensive lineman goes out and all of a sudden he can't play. Is that what do you realize that's the message you're sending? Like, players get hurt all the time. Offensive linemen get hurt. Guys come in, backups, you have to adjust. Great quarterbacks adjust. Jordan Love, from what I'm hearing from the Packer apologists, they're like, well, so if that guy, Zach Tom, the tackle, had not left, Green Bay would have won the game. Okay. All right, final thought. So we now know that the top seeds are going to host the AFC, NFC title games. They win on the divisional round, although the Niners did not cover the spread. So if you bet on the Packers, you won the bet with the point spread. The 49ers will play host to the Lions. The Ravens will play host to Kansas City. Who do you trust more going forward? Lamar Jackson or Brock Purdy? The 2 quarterbacks for the number 1 seed. So we are going to go, I can't believe I'm saying this because I don't really trust him much, but side by side, you had to pick one. It's a Sophie's Choice situation. I'm going to take Lamar Jackson. I am. Brock Purdy should have had 2 interceptions at least in that game against the Packers. Did not play well in the game against a second-rate Packer defense. That is a bad Packer defense. They're statistically in most major categories around 25th in the NFL defensively. And Brock Purdy was inefficient against that Packer defense and was the lesser quarterback for the majority of that game. So I can't trust that guy. The Lions, statistically anyway, have a better defense than the Green Bay Packers. Now, do I trust Lamar Jackson? A little bit more than I trust Brock Purdy, but playoff Lamar is still a thing. You don't erase that because you beat the Texans. That doesn't end the chatter about Lamar. But I look at Brock Purdy's performance, and it was like a Cobb salad. It was chopped up, right? It was choppy. And I don't like salads, but I know what a Cobb salad is because I've always been, everywhere I've been, people like the Cobb salad. I'm not a big Cobb salad. I don't like salad. I like salad dressing. I like croutons, but I don't like salad. Anyway, the Niners who have, Deebo Samuel, that's the excuse they're making, right? I've heard that from my guys in the Bay Area. Well, Deebo Samuel went out with an injury, and you can't expect Brock Purdy to play well. I was like, well, you're kind of making my case that he's a system guy. You're making my case. I don't know that you realize that. This was supposed to be a fine-oiled machine against a second-rate Packer defense, but Green Bay, for the most part, held the Niners within where if you were a Packer fan going into that game, you're like, okay, if Brock Purdy's going to play this way and the Niners are going to score this many points, got a pretty good shot to win the game. And they did have a pretty good shot to win the game. There was also the commentary by their head coach, Matt LaFleur, who has had issues with the kicking game all year and pretty much said, I'm paraphrasing here, that there was some prayer that was involved every time the kicker went out. Well, your prayers were not answered late in this game as the Packers missed a field goal, which opened up the door for the Niners, and they took full advantage of that late in the game.